Howdy, folks. Today we're heading down to Mexico outside the bounds of the map. Last time I showed you how to find Gavin in the cave.
I'm the devil.
How to drink to get outside the bounds of the map.
Goodbye.
And how to get the saddle out of bounds with you, even though we couldn't saddle the horse. Then we found the borders around New Austin where we can safely go to without getting shot by the sniper. That gives us an easy way to get around New Austin on the way down to Mexico. Now we just need to work out a way of getting across the river. If we try swimming, we drown immediately, so we're going to need to find a way around. We could go around south on top of the cliffs, but that's a long way. What we'll do instead is find a way down the cliffs around here, then cross the river where it's shallow. We can mostly head south toward the waypoint, but we'll need to go around some of the rocks. Now you can see there's a bit of a cliff, and we've come around the west side of it to get down. If we tried the east side, we'd be blocked by the river. If you try to swim it there, you drown, like I showed you before. Now you can see the river coming up ahead. Here's where we've come to. Now we'll cross and come up the other side of the river. The spot we're coming up to will be shallow enough to cross. You can see it's only about ankle deep, so we can cross it no problem. Now we're across the river, but we need to get up the cliffs to get to Mexico. There's something really bizarre here, a floating cube in the sky. Let's take a look at it. It's just floating there. What do you think it's supposed to be? It turns out that it's intangible. If you're falling, you'll fall right through it. It's hard to get further into Mexico because there's sheer cliffs on the right. If you try riding up, you just slide down again. So what we're looking for now is a path on the right where we can get up the cliff without sliding down. Just a little further. Here's the path. If we ride up the levelest part of the path, we can get there without slipping. We're heading straight toward that little dip up ahead. That's a path. Easy, easy. Now we're at the top and can just ride east into Mexico. Here's that again from another recording to show how it's done. First, ride up between these two rocks. Now we're heading up towards that little bush. Ride to the left of it and you won't slip. If we try riding to the right of the bush, we just slip back down the hill. Here we are back at the main recording. We've come to the top of the hill and just need to ride round the bend to see Mexico. And here's the glorious view of Mexico, except we can't see it because of the sandstorm. Here's a bit later after it's cleared.
She dropped her spotless linen, her snow-white knees, tiny sky blue garters. On her legs she wore.
How do you like my singing? We're at the top of some cliffs now, but there are several places where we can ride down to the bottom and back up again. Right here we can slide down without falling. It's only a small cliff, but we need a break in it to ride up again. You can see there's a long way ahead where it's just a vertical cliff face. This is the southern border of Mexico, and in the first Red Dead Redemption, it's a vertical cliff all the way along. Here's what it looks like in Red Dead Redemption 1. It's meant to be impassable so you don't escape the map. But in Red Dead Redemption 2, there's a whole row of spots where we can get up and back down again. We can just ride up here, but it's a bit tricky. If you slide down, try riding up a different way. There you go, this time it worked. Most of the others you can ride up without slipping. There's another just ahead. That down there is Sidewinder Gulch. Here's what it looks like in Red Dead Redemption 1. Here you can find Basilio to start the Aztec gold treasure hunt.
Señor, ha visto una piedra que parece así. Vaya, que es muy importante.
No, comprende.
Well, I didn't understand any of that. Now we can ride up the cliff again just over here. That was easy, but the next one is going to be a bit strange. It's over here. Watch what happens. Did you see that? Let's have a look again at quarter speed. These paths up and down the cliff are just in this area in the southwest part of Mexico. East of this, there are just vertical cliffs all the way around, and you can't get up again. When we go exploring in the eastern part of Mexico, we'd need to go even further east to get to Guarma. That normally means you'd need to come all the way west, back here, to get up the cliff and go east to Guarma, which takes quarter of an hour. But it turns out there's a secret way to escape out the east side of Mexico. I'll show you that at the end. Before that, we'll explore Mexico a bit. That was the last of these paths up the cliff. Up ahead, there's a safe way down, but you can't get up again that way. Here it is. If we're careful, we can ride down this rock arch without falling off. We can get down just around to the right here. So we have to slide down here. This is why we can't get up again this way. It just isn't possible to climb back up this slope. This is the Ojo del Diablo arch. Here it is in the first Red Dead Redemption. There you can find the 7th treasure in the Treasure Hunter Challenge, as well as Khan, the legendary jaguar. Now we're going to go exploring further east. We're heading straight east towards that cliff there. The cliffs on the right are the southern border of Mexico. To get to the top, we'd need to go back to the paths we found before. Here's that cliff we were heading towards. It's a good idea to bring a bunch of horse stimulants for when your horse runs out of stamina. Now we're going further east to another cliff. Past that, we find the spot we're looking for. There's a straight line on the ground where the color changes. And up in the air, there's another one of those floating cubes. You can see the same cliff formation in the first Red Dead Redemption, but there's no sign of the cube or the line on the ground. Maybe the cube has something to do with the change in the ground textures. We can get a closer look at this one. Now we'll go exploring up north. We're heading straight north to a plateau with cliffs most of the way around. There's a path up the southern side of it we can ride up. You can see the cliffs up ahead. Here, there's a strange rectangular tunnel through the rock. We can ride through it, but it doesn't look like there's a road or anything. Turns out that this is a railway tunnel in Red Dead Redemption 1. 1 is a few years later, so they must have built it between 2 and 1. Now we're going to head up to the top of those cliffs. There's a path further ahead. You can see the path sloping up on our left. Here's the bottom of the path. Now we can turn and ride up it. You get a good view from up here. Here's the top of the path. Now we're on the plateau and we'll ride northeast from here. We just continue going straight northeast until we find a building.
Whoa, boy, easy now.
There's a fort here. This is the only building in Mexico. Let's see if we can get inside. Well, this fort isn't very secure. You can just walk through the walls. I'll just jump the horse up to this walkway.
Yep.
Come on, jump! Oh, come on!
Great.
There you are. It's a good idea to bring a few horse revivers coming out here.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a whole bunch of missing walls down here, and the balcony looks like it's floating. Reality seems to be on the blink again. This turns out to be El Presidio in Red Dead Redemption 1. There's a mission where you have to attack the fort, but they've made it a bit harder by adding a gate and fixing the walls so you can't walk through them. So you have to take a more subtle approach. Now we're going to go to the far east of Mexico, and we're going to try to get to the top of those cliffs. This time it's much harder because there aren't any breaks where you can just ride up. We head back down the path we came up to get to the fort. We're heading mostly east, but we need to go a little north to get around these cliffs. Now we head straight east again, and those cliffs ahead are the eastern border of Mexico. Wait, this is strange. There's a rock that's just floating in midair. How is this even possible? There's nothing holding it up.
Regions to explore. Rogers up past the street.
We can even ride right under it, and there's nothing there. It turns out that if you can get up here, you can stand on it. It's not intangible like the cubes. Now we're heading up to the cliffs. This first spot we could climb up, but you can't get the horse with you, so you'd need to walk the rest of the way. Here's from another recording. We jumped up, but we can't pull the horse up after us. There's the same spot in Red Dead Redemption 1, but you can't jump up here. We have to drop down here, but we want to get up on the left to get to the top.
Yep.
We need to convince the horse to jump up, then go around up here. You can't go any further this way. There's a sheer drop. Here's where I managed to jump up. This is very tricky. There's only one spot where it works. Here's from another recording where I made it again. You have to ride in at the right angle for it to work.
Yep.
It doesn't work at all in the first Red Dead Redemption. There's the same sheer drop, so you can't get any further. Once you manage to get up, you can ride around on the slope here. There's a sheer cliff on the right. That's why we had to jump up here to get around.
Yeah.
No, no, no! Yikes, that was close. Now there's finally a slope where we can ride to the top of the cliff. There you go. That's how you can get to the top of the cliff in the east of Mexico. From here, we can keep heading east to get to Guarma. I'll show you that next time. Now here's some footage of some more attempts.
Yeah.